everybody, welcome back to Wild Horizons. My name is Barrett, this is Inferno, and in today's video, we're gonna learn and figure out if you should either adopt or rescue an animal versus buying one. Let's get right into this. Alright everybody, well I appreciate you tuning into this one. Again, I appreciate you joining the channel, following along. If you're new, again, make sure you drop a like down below, consider subscribing. It definitely helps out the channel. I think he sees our chameleon in the background, so he may be crawling around all over my back. But in today's video, what we're gonna figure out is if you should adopt or rescue a reptile. This could also apply to amphibians too, but mainly we're gonna deal with smaller animals like reptiles, amphibians, animals like that. But I thought this was an important topic because I see a lot of people that either Be right back. We're gonna put him away. Alright, so he's gonna hang out on the couch while I film, but they're best buddies, so let's get back to me. Alright, so like I was talking about before Inferno decided he was gonna jump off and go try and get in our chameleon's enclosure, I was talking about if you should own or buy a reptile versus rescuing one. So in today's video, it's gonna be a shorter one. It's super important though, because I see a ton of people that either A, want to go buy a reptile, or they're looking for something new, or sometimes people just join like these Facebook groups, or have someone that's trying to rehome an animal and it may not be the right fit for you. So in today's video, we're gonna go over why it may be a good thing and why it may not be a good thing. So make sure you stay tuned until the end. Drop a comment below. Again, I love interacting with y'all, so make sure you drop a comment. Again, leave a like and subscribe, but let's get into this. Alright, so getting right into this, so the reason why I had my bearded dragon, or one of them out earlier, is because I would say bearded dragons are probably the most sought after reptile, or most popular lizard there is. And in my opinion, I don't believe bearded dragons are really beginner reptiles. Again, disagree with me or agree with me, comment below what you think, but bearded dragons are typically pretty hard to care for. So people get them when they're really small, they get really big in terms of lizards that are out there like leopard geckos or crested geckos, which are much more common and smaller. Again, it's really up to you what you prefer to buy. Again, all of this is speculative based off of what you prefer. I'm gonna give you my opinion on this. Again, buying from reputable breeders versus buying from like an adoption place, like a rescue, or going on like Facebook groups and trying to find one that's trying to get rehomed. In my opinion, there's a lot of problems. So unless you're a really experienced reptile keeper, I don't suggest to adopt an animal. And the reason why I say that is because typically there's a reason why these people are giving them up in the first place. Number one, they may be off of food, they may have something going on with them that's underlying they don't know about, or they may be just growing out of the space they have and the person can't care for them any longer, whether it's financially or a multitude of other reasons. I don't know. I'm not looking at whatever animal you're trying to get or looking at animals in general right now. However, when I go look at animals, if I'm looking to rehome them or I'm looking to adopt, I always want to know the backstory. How'd this animal get to you? What's its care like right now? Is it eating? What size enclosure is it in? What kind of lighting does it have? Animals and reptiles in general need really, I would say, particular care. So you're gonna find whatever kind of animal you're looking for is gonna have different needs than others. And that's for all reptiles, all amphibians, really all animals in general. But the topic of today's video is whether or not adoption is right for you and whether or not you should just buy it new. So I'm gonna list out some pros and some cons for each. So let's get into that. Alright, so let's start out with some pros. And I'm gonna go both for adopting and buying new from a breeder. So let's get right into, I would say, the pros for adopting is it's typically a lot cheaper. Typically you can find what you're looking for and it may be already grown. So some people don't like to get animals or reptiles when they're really young. Some people just like the big reptiles or the full-grown ones because typically they're easier to care for than say a baby would be. Babies are much more temperamental Their care is a lot more particular, and that goes for any reptile or any amphibian. They're just smaller, they're more fragile. So I would say the pro to adopting is it's typically cheaper. You can typically get enclosures with the animals. You can typically get all the accessories you need. And I say need loosely because typically that's what people think they need, and a lot of times it's not what they actually need. So let's get into the pros with buying new or from a breeder. Alright, so the pros with buying from a breeder versus adopting is you can get what you actually want and actually need. You can do research on that animal. Typically adoptions, you're going to be, buying it on the spot or buying it quickly because it's adopting and multiple other people are looking at the same thing you are. That's typically how it goes. Because most of the time what you're adopting from is typically like a Facebook group or maybe a friend that you know of that needs to get rid of it. Maybe they're moving. I don't know the situation. It's different for every single animal that's out there. However, I would say the pro with buying new is not only can you get what you want, you can get the right size you want, and typically you can grow up with that animal. So I think it's pretty cool when you get something really young because then you can watch it grow. So that's the real pro to, getting an animal when it's young is that you can be with it from start to finish. Finish sucks, but everyone has a life cycle. But I would say that's mainly the pro with buying from a breeder or buying an animal that's from a reputable place versus adopting. Alright, another pro to buying new or adopting versus adopting is you can get the right setup and the right enclosure at that time. So what I do when I purchase a new animal or I'm looking to purchase a new animal is I will actually set that enclosure up prior to getting it. And the reason why I do that is for a multitude of reasons. Number one, I can set it up, make sure it's the right size enclosure, make sure all my UVB bars, all my bulbs all work, and that everything I need for that animal is already set in place so that when I get that animal, it's ready to go ahead and be introduced into its new home. Again, this depends on what you're getting though, because again, like I mentioned with the adopting side of things, is you typically are getting the enclosure and it's a lot more cost effective. However, it may not be the proper care that that animal needs. We'll get into cons here in just a minute, but I think the big pro is with buying new or from a breeder is that you can actually sit down, figure out what you need, take the time with it. Typically these breeders are breeding them, so you can always get them. I mean, they're not going anywhere unless it's a super rare reptile that breeder has done one of, but I'm assuming that's not what you've clicked on this video for. It's probably because you want to learn whether or not you should buy it from a breeder or a reputable place, or if you should adopt it to save yourself some money. But let's go ahead and get into some cons with both. Alright, so let's start out with some cons, and we're going to go cons for both. But we're going to start off with buying an animal new from a breeder or from a reputable place. And let's go over some cons with that, because there are a couple cons when it comes to, getting an animal from a breeder or getting it from someone that's reputable, like a nice reptile place. I'm not talking PetSmart and places like that, because I can go down that road, but I don't suggest to ever buy an animal from PetSmart or places like that. They're mass bred, there's issues with them, you never know what you're gonna get. But with buying from a reputable place, like a breeder, sometimes they're crossbred or they're bred, back to back to back with the same family, same genes, stuff like that, and it can lead to an unhealthy animal. Again, you can find that both with adopted animals and brand new, so you really got to be particular as to what you're looking for. The biggest ones in my eyes though is when you're looking at animals that are super common. So bearded dragons, crested geckos, leopard geckos, ball pythons. You'll see tons of different stuff out there, and if you want to deep dive into that particular animal, there's tons of YouTube videos out there. I even have a couple on my channel. If you want to check out my channel and go watch them on ball pythons and other animals that I have. But I'll say the con really to mainly buying new is, pricing. That's a huge one because stuff is expensive. When you buy a brand new setup, brand new enclosure, a brand new animal that you've never owned before, it can be expensive and add up really quick. But again, in my eyes, and having a lot of reptiles, if you can't afford them, don't buy them. So there's animals that are a lot more cost effective than others too. Like our bearded dragon is pretty cost effective compared to my monitor lizard, or compared to my basilisks, or my blue-eyed crested dragons. I can go on and on. There's expensive animals out there, and there's animals that don't cost much to upkeep, like a crested gecko. Super cost effective. They eat like a little protein powder mix, not protein powder, but like a little powder mix. It's like a little smoothie. Super cost effective. You get the stuff in like a little can or jar. You mix it into some water, and you throw them some crickets every now and then, or dubia roaches, and they do great. They're super easy to care for. They need a humid environment, but it's typically a much more cost-effective animal than something that needs like a really particular diet or particular setup, enclosure. You know, the list goes on and on, but I would say that's the con, is expense. That's a huge one with buying new. You know, it adds up pretty quick, but again, don't get that animal unless you can afford it. But let's get into adopting and why that has some cons as well. All right, so some cons for adopting is you never know what you're gonna get, right? When you're getting something that's from someone else, you never know what that animal's life was like prior to you getting it. You don't know if it's in good health typically. There's tons of times where there's underlying issues with that animal. Like I've mentioned previously, sometimes animals can go off of eating. That's why maybe the person's getting rid of it. And to be honest, people aren't truthful, especially in the reptile hobby. People will lie to you and try and pawn something off on you because they don't want to deal with it anymore. Maybe it's frustrating not having an animal eat, or they can't, you know, take care of it properly with the proper food or lighting. Maybe the lights are too expensive for them. I don't know what that reason may be, but typically you don't know what you're gonna get when you're getting something that's adopted. So I would say the other con is typically, you know, a lot of people don't want to part ways with that animal unless it's with the enclosure and everything they have with it, which can be a pro and a con, because a lot of times people don't have the right setups for animals, and typically you're gonna overpay because they want to have everything included with that animal, like the enclosure, the lighting, you know, the list goes on, everything that goes inside of the enclosure for that animal. And most of the time, whatever that enclosure is, it's way too small for that animal. So I see a ton of Facebook groups and posts out there with people keeping bearded dragons in like 20-gallon setups, and, you know, full-grown adults, you know, in 40-gallon setups. Same with ball pythons in 20-gallon setups, and vertical setups where they're, you know, they're a terrestrial animal, not, you know, they don't go up and climb in trees typically. Ball pythons are going to be on the ground. They need hide space. People keep them on paper towels and napkins, and, you know, I can go on and on about what I think is ethical versus what others do. But I think that's a big con, is you really don't know what you're getting into. And majority of the people out there, I'm sure you may be one of them as well, you may not have a ton of experience. So the reason why I like to adopt, and the reason why I like to, you know, rehome animals for people, is because I know what I'm doing. I may not know everything, but I'm gonna learn. So that's the thing with me. So the thing with my girlfriend is we're all into animals. That's what we do day in, day out. We sleep, breathe, eat animals. Maybe not eat, but we sleep and breathe animals. So, I would just say, I'm gonna cut here because she's just staring at me laughing. So, I'll be right back. All right, so I'm back. She's done laughing at me now because I said I'm gonna eat animals. I do eat animals. I eat beef, I eat everything else. Anyways, off topic. Let's get back on track here. But the reason why I like to take care of animals is because I can give them the proper setups and the proper enclosures and the proper care they need. So I'm on a lot of these Facebook groups and forums because I like to take people's problems that they think are problems, and I want to provide that animal the best solution in the home possible. So I have probably close to 85 animals now, whether that's bearded dragons, you know, the list goes on and on. I have a ton of animals. I have super common ones, and I have some pretty rare reptiles and amphibians as well. But I would say, you know, for the average Joe, you know, out there keeping animals, most people don't know what they're doing. And most people go on Facebook groups, or they go into, you know, Reddit forums, and they want to be keyboard warriors, and they want to, you know, learn everything there is to know about animals, but people give bad advice. People don't tell you the right thing. You know, when you're buying an animal from PetSmart, these people don't know what they're talking about. Sorry if anyone works at PetSmart. These people don't know what they're talking about, you know? I go into PetSmart all the time, and, you know, I'm talking to people, and, you know, the person at the front desk or whoever's helping them gives them advice on something, and that's the wrong advice. And I've stepped in multiple times where I'm like, I don't really think that's the case. This is maybe a better solution. And typically what I'm providing in terms of solution is the better solution, but these people just don't know. It's not like they're trying to be, you know, deceitful or hurtful, especially at these, you know, PetSmart places. They want to help, but these people just don't know. And, you know, when you get these keyboard warriors out there that think they know everything, they're gonna go and, you know, go to war and die on that hill where they think they're right and they don't want to admit they're wrong. You know, it kind of is what it is. But I would say make sure you know what you're getting into when you're getting animals. let's go ahead and get into this outro. I'm gonna kind of cover everything and recap everything as well, but let's go ahead and get into that. Alright, well, I appreciate you sticking through that if you did watch it. Again, I know I was kind of all over the place. I wanted to make this though because it's super important to figure out whether you should buy new and from a breeder that's reputable, or if you should, adopt an animal. I believe that it's going to be a case-by-case situation for you, what your experience is, and what kind of an animal you're looking at getting. Because in my opinion, if you're new to the hobby or you're looking at a new animal, go buy it from a reputable breeder. That's just my 2 cents. You can always help someone out in a bad position if you're in a better position than they are to take care of that animal, but you really never know what you're getting into. So unless you're willing to go spend hundreds if not thousands of dollars at vet visits, or you're not willing to go buy the proper enclosure setup and you just want to take someone else's problem and make it your problem and not fix that solution or create a solution to that problem, don't get that animal. Please don't get that animal. And again, if you do and you have something you need to rehome, let me know. I'll take it. I'm just spitballing out there, but make sure you know what you're getting into, whether it's a brand new animal from a reputable breeder or you're looking to adopt. Do your research. Comment down below if you have any questions. I'll answer them. I'll go through every single one of them, even if there's hundreds of comments, which I doubt there will be, but if there's hundreds of comments, I'll answer every single one of them if y'all have serious questions. Again, there's an email in my bio as well on my channel. But make sure, again, if you're new, drop a like down below. Consider subscribing. I appreciate you sticking through this one, and I hope to see you in the next. Make the right and proper decisions, and we'll see you later. Peace.